Hello, my name is Miracle Lawrence, and in this video, I will be demonstrating our movie rental tracker API project. This application was built using Node.js, Express.js, MongoDB, Mongoose, Passport.js for GitHub code authentication, Swagger UI for documentation, and Jest with Supertest for testing. I will demonstrate the deployment, code operations, validation, code authentication, and testing. First, I will demonstrate the deployed application. You could see that from that URL, the API is running successfully. So now I will open up Swagger UI documentation by attaching the API docs root here. So Swagger provides interactive documentation for all endpoints and allows testing directly from the browser. This application contains 5 collections. First being the users collection. Second is the reviews collection. Third is the rented movies collection. The fourth is the movie information collection, and the last being the available movies collection. Each collection supports CRUD operations, including get by ID, post, put, and delete. I will begin with the users collection. So I'll start with get, which is of course a public route. Everyone can execute, and of course it returns a status code of 200 with an empty list because there's no data currently in the database. So let's go ahead and create one using the post route. Try it out. You can see that there's a sample data here that we could try. When we execute that, you'll see it returns an error or status error of 401 with a message saying unauthorized, please log in with GitHub. Now, this happens that way because of the authentication middleware code attached to this route. So a user would have to be logged in first before you could perform operations like this. So I will go ahead and log in. So I'm going to use this URL here, GitHub. When I run that, I should be logged in successfully into the system. So let's try it again. Let's create a new user, try it out using the sample data there, execute, and it should work fine. Return the status code of 201 with the data created successfully. I'm going to copy this ID here because I'll need it to test the next route. So let's get by ID, try that out, paste, and then execute. So you see that it returns the data that we just created. Our database has been modified and it returns just fine. So I want to modify that data that we just created. So I'm pasting it there, and I want to change the location from Abuja to Uyo, Nigeria, and I'll execute. It works fine. You see that the location has been changed from Abuja to Uyo. Now, I would like to equally test the validation code attached to this route. Suppose I want to make a change here, and when you have email, I remove the @ symbol and I execute. It should return an error. A status code of 500 saying validation failed. Please enter a valid email address. So the validation code that was attached to each field is what is playing out there. So when I change that and execute, it should work fine. All right, so let's try something else. Say, okay. So lastly, I'm going to try the delete route and paste the ID, execute, and that should work fine. User has been deleted successfully. Next, let's test out the reviews API. Start with the get route. Execute should return an empty list, meaning that there is no data in the database. So let's create one using the post route. To try it out, I have a sample data here. So I'll just execute and return the status code of 201. So that works perfect. I'm going to copy this ID here because I'm going to need it for the next route, which is get by ID. So I'm copying that up now, paste the ID and execute. Because it returns that data we just created. Fine. Let's test the put route, try it out. Insert the ID here. I want to make a little adjustment to the rating. Let's give it a 7 or a 5-star rating instead, and then we execute. That should work fine, because it does. So let's test the validation on this. Suppose instead of 5, I type in the word 5 and I execute. It returns an error, status code of 500 saying cache to number field 5, meaning that it shouldn't be a string. Instead, it should be a number. So let's correct that right away and change it to 5 and then execute. This should work fine. Of course, it does. Status code of 200 and works fine. Finally, let's test out the delete route. Try it out, paste the data, execute. See the review has been deleted successfully. Next, we're going to test out the rented movies collection. We start with the get route, execute. and you should have an empty list of rented movies. So let's create one. Try it out. I have a sample data here. So once I execute, it shows the data has been created successfully. So I'll copy this ID to test the next route, which is get by ID. Try it out, paste, and execute. It returns that data just fine. So next, let's try out the put route. Try it out. And paste. I want to modify the rental fee from 1,500 to 1,800. And so when I execute, that should work fine. So that's a scope of 200. And the rental fee has been changed to 1,800. Now, suppose I change the rental fee from a figure to a letter, say and I execute. Definitely it will return an error saying that it's supposed to be a number and not a string. So let's fix that error, change it back to 1,800, and we execute, and that works fine. So we're able to modify that data using the put route. Finally, I will demonstrate testing. Now, I created a folder here for testing. I created test for all get and get by ID routes. If you check here using Jest, I'm going to go ahead and run that test now by running npm test. So as shown, all tests passed successfully. The results show 1 test switch passed and 10 tests passed. So this confirms that all get, as you can see here, all get and get by ID routes function correctly. This concludes my demonstration. Thank you for your time.